Well, hello, and we're back again with another episode of Dance Jams. Today, we talk with Oliver Rehder, and Oliver is a dancer, dance educator, researcher, author, and many things more, all in the dance world. And we'll hear more about him. I'm very excited to meet him. But we never do that, of course, without my good friend Ton. Ton, are you there? And
Hey,
you
Sean,
know
I'm there.
Oliver. Yeah, you know Oliver a little bit better than
Yes,
I do, and I'm
yes.
excited to invite him. He published a book about dance technique in standard dancing. We explain what that is a little bit later, but I'm excited. What about you, Ton?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I never met somebody who wrote a book in standard dancing.
Okay.
And yes, and we have a nice music there. I
Yeah,
like
yeah,
our
yeah.
sound. And yes, and this will be our first interview with the author in the ballroom dancing, waltz, tango. Like we have more slow fox and a quick step
Yep.
and a Viennese waltz. And
Yes.
somebody wrote a book about it, but he can tell more about it. Maybe Oliver can tell something about his dance career
Yes. We
and
all.
uh,
Well. Ho,
how
ho,
you get. Hello, Oliver. Nice to meet you.
Hello. Yes, nice to meet you. Thanks for having me.
Yes, 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 absolutely. And how you did to come to dance ballroom dancing, because that's not a usual choice for a dancer. Normally, they go to hip hop or to ballet or jazz, but ballroom dancing. Yeah, so tell something about it, how you came to it.
Yeah, so my parents were dancers as well. They
Wow.
danced starting from adults and continuing in senior one. So they had to practice and they danced competitions. Usually they tried to get a babysitter for my sister and me because they didn't want to bother us with their dancing. But every now and then we came with them, we joined them in their practice or their competitions. Yeah, and so we got in touch with dancing, and one day when I was 7 and my sister that I danced with was 5, I think, we wanted to start ourselves, and that's how the journey started.
So how long you dance then? And now, because you're still dancing now, or you stopped, or with competition
Yeah,
dance you stopped? But
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Yes, we stopped our competitive career about 10, 11 years ago. So I danced starting by the age of 7 until I was 27. So it was a period of 20 years that we've danced.
so
that's
many
pretty long.
experience
Yeah.
in that dance
Yeah.
form. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry,
No.
Sean.
Yeah,
Yeah.
What you said,
No.
Sean?
No, no, and I saw that you had quite a bit of achievements. I know you don't like to talk about that, but as an introduction to our listeners and viewers, yeah, Oliver had not only danced in Germany where he is originally from, but international and had really good results. If you have to mention one result that you're super proud of, what would that be, Oliver, from in a competition point of view? And then we'll move on to the things that you would like to talk about.
yeah, yeah. Thank you. When I have to pick something out, I would choose the 3 national titles of standard dancing. One was in youth, and 2 were in show dance and professionals. So that are the highlights of our careers. And additionally, we danced quite a lot of competitions internationally. Yeah, it was fun mostly.
good.
Yes.
Well, yeah, congratulations with that. But we know, and I said it already in the beginning. You also wrote a book. Ton already said it. It's actually quite unique. In our world, maybe it sounds like that a lot. But for other people to write a book about standard dancing, not so common. And we, of course, would like to know how you came to that point where you actually first start to feel I need to write a book. Why do you think you have something to add what was already written about it, and so on and so on, right?
Yeah. Um, yeah, it started when I was 17, 18 years old, that I started writing down notes when we learned some new principles in our own lessons, when I watched lectures. Then I tried to assemble notes because my impression was that in each lecture, the lecturer addresses one point, but there's no overview about all the principles in standard dancing. Everybody touches one thing or maybe another, but there's no overview uh, and no really systematic approach. And since I'm quite a systematic guy, I wanted to write down each principle that we learned. So that was the beginning. And over, about 20 years or even more, even more. No, quite 20, yeah, 20 years. I assembled the notes, but these were only notes in a very tiny font that could only be understood by myself because it were just notes. And every once in a while, I thought about writing a book, but I always lacked time because of own training, or when we finish with dancing. I give training and work a lot, so there was never an appropriate amount of time to write such a thing. Um, but then, as we all know, Corona was there, and suddenly I had a lot of time because there were the lockdowns. And since I had often thought about writing it, transforming it into written text, I just started doing it. And so I wrote and wrote, and the pandemic lasted. It lasted, and so the book developed, or the manuscript developed. And then I thought, okay, I've written so much, this should be finished. That was the story of the book, of the creation process.
Yes. Um, I I saw your book in Germany, in Stuttgart, and in my opinion, it looks fantastic. Also, the drawings in it, and I don't know if Sean could share them. I don't know if he can do this technically wise, but what I saw in the book, many drawing, and all there are how you say, they are not similar the picture, but they have the same style all,
Yeah,
and this is makes it one uniform bookwork. Also the cover, the blue one, I like also the color because I like blue. But anyway, from the outside looks fantastic. From the inside, I didn't read it because I still not have it, but I will buy it, of course. And what makes a difference, because I have ballroom books and older ones, like one of the first edition of Victor Sylvester,
yeah,
and Jeffrey Hearn I have in standard and in Latin, the book. Maybe you can show your book from the outside. I don't know if you have it by your side.
yes,
uh, yeah, maybe to the camera. And you
yeah.
have it in two languages, I think, in
Yes.
English and in yes, and in German. And what I like from the front picture, that's actually what I really like. It's not the face of yourself to promote yourself, but you promote there a circle with two dancers. Can you show me the picture again? Uh, this one? Yeah, from the dancers. A little bit more to the middle. Yes. And I like that circle. And there is a contact point in a little circle there, and
Yeah,
it looks quite symmetric. and all these pictures in the book have this unique style. How you came to make the pictures in that style?
Um, w- First, I wrote the text, um,
Yes.
and then I thought about how to make it more appealing and more understandable, because I think it's quite difficult to describe things in words or to understand things that are written in words without any pictures. And so I thought about how I could support the content of the text. Um, and then a friend of mine suggested that I should use a drawing pad, and I searched for a drawing app that I could use. Yeah, and then I started drawing it. Yeah, it was helpful that as a child I had drawing as a hobby, quite an extensive one, so that helped me quite a lot. Yeah, and
Ah,
then I
yes,
started
beautiful.
drawing it. Yeah, so in the beginning there were only the lines, the contours of the couples, um, and then I started to, yeah, maybe professionalize it by adding some shadows to make it more
Mm.
three-dimensionally appealing.
Yeah, they're looking really great in that book, and I love the
Yeah,
art how you created them. And but what is then the difference to the other dance books then? Because you write about ballroom dancing, and mostly this all these ballroom dance books what I have, or it is from the history, or it's about ballroom technique.
yeah,
I don't, and I don't have other ballroom books only about these two subjects. And so, what makes the difference from your book to the other books then?
yeah, yeah. That's a good question and valid question. I think the main difference is if you open up the previous technique books, they mostly consist of tables, and they show and describe the certain figures. So you have the tables, and then you have, yeah, then you have the different lines comprising footwork and alignments and sway and footwork, etc. And it all comes down to different figures that are described. Most technique books only have um, a very brief introduction that address the principles. So if you think about Alex Moore, I think there are, I don't know, 10 pages that describe mostly the lines that are in the tables, how they should be understood. But they only in a limited way address the principles. Of course, the WDSF books, there's a larger introduction. I think there are
And
30
double DSF is what is that?
WDSF, WDSF
Yeah,
technique. Yeah, I think the introduction um, it, consists of 30 pages, and it's more proficient, but it lacks all the principles, and these books are more focused on the figures that are described, and I think that's absolutely necessary. And I really appreciate the work that has done by the authors. No matter which book you take, it's tremendous work. But however, I think they lack the principles that stand behind the figures. So if you know, for example, how a natural rotating figure works, you can apply that knowledge to most natural rotating figures. So if you know how it works, then you can apply it to the natural turn, the natural spin turn, running spin turn, and all the natural rotating figures. Or the same is valid for the reverse
so
turns and
this
sways. And so, yeah,
so this is
yeah,
more footwork then. They describe the footwork, and WDSF is the World Dance Sport Federation of Ballroom Dancing,
Yes.
It's the only one recognized by the Sport Federation or the Sport Accord worldwide. So this is for the listeners. Mainly all these books from in the past of this ballroom world, Alex Moore, Victor Sylvester, Jeffrey Hearn, they
Yeah.
are more, and the WDSF books, they have 10. It's more about footwork.
Yes.
And Donnie Burns has also a technically book. Also, mostly it's about only feet. And you have also, in my method, we have 10 body parts. So we have more body parts, or yes, and you
Yeah.
describe them also from a total instrument then.
Yes, yeah. I believe that when you know how different movements work, then the footwork and the sways and the rotations that are described in the books, but they are mostly described the final results. So in the previous books, there is maybe one line about the footwork, and then you look at right foot forward with the heel and so on. But if you know the basic principles, then you can apply it to your dancing, and then more or less the figures are danced correctly, and the final results that are depicted in these books may occur more or less automatically. So that is the approach. It's um, a more hollow approach than
Holistic approach more.
holistic. Okay, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
holistic
yes.
approach.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
that's the main difference. I believe that it's absolutely necessary. For example, when you do a trainer education, that you learn the figures, that you know where one figure starts, where it ends, the directions. It's all necessary. But I think additionally that it's very crucial and beneficial if you when you know the principles that are behind the figures that you learn, because then it all makes more sense, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I'm agree.
Yeah, let's add a little bit to it because Oliver, you used the title is also principles of standard dancing. You used that word quite a bit. I think we need to help the listeners a little bit to understand what principles are, right? Because
Yeah,
I think we all grew up. We are from the generation that we grew up with this
yeah,
book.
yeah,
Very
yeah,
small. They call it even technique. We could even arguably say if it's truly technique, right? Because it's all about what Ton and I call defined figures. These are the figures that we
yeah,
know
yes,
in dance, defined movements, right?
yeah,
What you tap on, I think you're a little bit too modest actually. What you tap into, there are movement principles that you all would help you to if you know them to understand these figures. In
yeah,
my opinion, we are very straightforward in this podcast, by the way. It should actually be the other way around. You should first understand a little bit what you can move and how you can move it before
yeah,
you are making the movements that you want to make. So I think your book is very valuable, more than just an addition to what's already there. But can you
yeah,
explain for the listeners and the viewers a little bit, what is a principle in movement altogether?
yeah,
Because
yeah. Okay, so principle is something that is applicable to different figures. That's like how can I describe it? So, for example, if you have the principle that you should never turn to the right before you have turned to the left, that's a principle. So when you want to dance a natural turn, you have to wind up to the left in order to turn to the right. So that is an example of a principle that can be applied throughout different figures. So
So
maybe,
that's structural wise through when you want to turn to right, you wind up to the left then first. That's a
yes,
principle.
for example.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and the other way around. So that's a principle that can be applied to all the different figures. So it doesn't matter whether you dance a natural turn or reverse turn or a fall away. and so on. If you want to rotate to the left, then you have to wind up to the right. So that's one principle that can be applied to different figures.
Hmm. Yeah, interesting. That's only one principle in that book, or you have more
No,
of them? And and
no.
and I have also an other question to the principles. Um, how you have you examples from your dancers? How you approach it then with that principles? That would be quite interesting.
Yes. So my approach in training is to talk about one or two principles in each lesson that can be
Mhm.
applied throughout the whole choreography. So, for example, when we practice couple positions, then we have some exercises to practice these positions, and then the principles they can be applied to throughout the whole choreography. So, for example, if you take the principles of outside position, so outside partner position, then there's one principle that mostly you have your body about 1/8 rotated to the right, and you put your foot in CBMP, so in one line, more or less. And that's another principle as an example. So if you know this principle, you can apply it throughout all the figures. And that's the approach that I have, that I don't go through the figures and do sway in the first figure, rotation in the second, hold in the third, and so on. But I try to address one or two principles in each lesson that can be applied in the dance we talk about, but also can be applied to all the other dances. So the couples that are eager to do so, they don't have the lesson on one dance. When we have a lesson, we don't speak about one dance, but by applying the lesson, they can apply it to all the other dances that we
Yeah,
even
to all
didn't
the five,
talk about.
holistic.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
And CBMP listeners, it's counter body movement position. That's
yes.
the letters, yes, CBMP. Yes. For some who has experience with ballroom dancing but still not know what CBMP is, now you know it. I hope it. Yes. So it's
Yeah.
very it sounds very technically actually uh, Oliver. Um, this is also because when I had before standard lessons, ballroom lesson, the form always fixed there. It's you cannot like in my method when I go to the right, I don't want them show that I go first to the left, so I keep it secret that I go to the
Mhm.
right. So I
Yeah.
make different decisions in it, and when they make the sway to the left, I try to do them to the right. So I do the opposite because it's also possible. So that's more freedom to the machine, what I use, my instrument, my body.
Mm.
And so these are fixed principles then, or you can play around with it.
Uh, yes, you can play around with the principles, but still you have to apply them as they are. But if you know the principles, you can choose different designs for the figure, for a
Yes.
certain figure. So, for example, um, if you dance a line figure and you have the different principles of rotation and sways in your repertoire, then you're able to play with it and produce different designs.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
So yeah.
and
So
what
the
you mean with
principles.
design then? What is a design then in dancing then? What in the ballroom dancing? What you call a
Yeah.
design?
Yeah. The design of the figure, how much you rotate, how much you sway, how
Ah,
much you
okay.
go around each other. For example, if you dance an oversway, this which is quite an easy figure, you just go backwards and sideways, and then you shape. You can design it in different ways. You can rotate more, rotate around each other, rotate less, rotate to the right or to
Yes.
the left as you like, to initiate the next movements, or to produce an accent. And
Mhm.
that's what I meant by saying that you can use the principles to design different figures.
Yeah, nice. It's more freedom in that one and holistic approach than the other one, where it's the form or shape, you can say it, or design. It's more fixed, and here you work more from the principles to gain more freedom. Then.
Yes, yeah. Maybe if we want to take an example, you have letters that can uh, be built to words. So words consist of letters, and one word should be written in a certain and correct way. So that's the principle. But then you can put different words together to create a book or a poem or whatever, and that's the design thing or what you want to do with your principles, with the words. So the this might be the
Hmm.
words as an example, and then you can put them together as you like in different figures. Of course, if you take a natural turn, which is a figure that has been danced for decades, then there might be less opportunity to do a different design, because the people might think that you are not able to dance a natural turn because everybody has a certain
Okay,
opinion
Sean.
how the natural turn should look like. But if you dance figures like lion figures, then you can design it as you like and take the principles to shape, to design as you like it. But still, the
Mhm.
principles have to be there. You must not break
Yes, I
your hold and so
yes.
on.
Maybe I have a meaning that's about the ballroom world. They're quite conservative. That's
Mhm.
my opinion. Um, and new things for them, it's a challenge sometimes for them because they want to keep the old things. How they received your book actually, because it's then when it's a holistic approach and you have more freedom in it, how they received it in the ballroom world.
Um, Overall, it has been received very well. I
Mhm.
just thought about your comments on the conservative standard dances. Uh, I believe that there are different approaches. There are the ones that try to conserve the traditional way of dancing, and then there are the ones that try to evolve new things, new ideas. And I think both are correct, and we need both. We need the structure of we need the traditions, and also I believe that it's nice to try new things, still based on on the principles, on the traditional ideas that are valid and that are necessary.
Uh,
um, so
yes.
yeah.
I think
um,
your book is needed actually, because when you would dance like 100 years ago, then you can stuck by the old things. But I think dance, it's changing constantly, and this is a proof of the result what you made now. And Sean, you have something to ask to Oliver also from
Yeah. No, I think I started them off in explaining to our audience and listeners, to say what are principles, give a couple of good examples. A second question you could follow up on that is that, why should anyone pick up your book? If you want to develop yourself into dancing in general, or specifically in this case, in standard dancing. Yeah, tell me a little bit. If I'm a dancer, I am a dancer, but
yeah.
so why would I pick it up? What would I gain from it?
I believe that if you know the movement principles of standard dancing, then everything gets easier. So if you learn something from your teacher and you have a broader knowledge foundation, then it's easier to implement that knowledge into your daily training. So as to speak for myself, I always like to have structure, and when I learn new principles or new ideas, then I try to add them to the structure that I already got. And so I believe that everybody who strives for learning the principles is able to do so by this book, and this will help the development of each couple that reads it and understands it. Because by knowing the principles and the movement ideas, that makes it easier to reproduce what you want to what you have learned in the lessons, because you have a better structure and you don't tap in the blind, you might say.
Is it necessary? I mean, it's almost an obvious question, right? But is it necessary for the teacher to know and work within these principles? And let me give you an example, right? Tom wrote a book, Gem, and it clearly lays out more. Also universal principles around movement. Let me give you an example. You can only bend or extend your arm, right? There is no, and then you can also turn. There are only three.
Yeah,
That's it. That's it. That's not only that's there are the anatomy actually makes it four, but let's not go into that. But that's how clear that is. And for some people, Tom and I noticed that is actually almost like an eye opener, right? Like, oh wow,
yeah,
I can actually make only three movements. So some people ask, if we ask how many movements you can make in that perspective, they come up with crazy numbers, and then we say three,
yeah,
and then they are like flabbergasted. We also
yeah,
notice that some teachers don't like to hear that when we bring that in. How do you
yeah.
deal with that? How did you bring your principles in the dance world?
Yeah, I believe that every teacher that is interested in gaining more knowledge about the movement principles, or even just compare your own thoughts with another one's thoughts, yeah, is very much introduced to read it. And I believe that it might be beneficial for each and everyone. So if anybody else would have written a book, I would definitely want to read it, especially if somebody describes all the different movements, the different planes of movement. Yeah, and it's interesting to read. I hope.
No,
Yeah,
I
and
agree. Yeah.
yeah, and I hope that, or I think that it will be beneficial to to learn it, to read it, and yes, as I said, maybe even just compare it with your own thoughts. And if you think it's wrong, what's written in the book, then you might know it more for sure because you have thought about it. Might be, but yeah, reading it, I think, is beneficial for teachers, for dancers, and for judges. Yeah, and I luckily I received some very nice feedbacks from couples that have read it. They that said who said that yeah, it's beneficial for them to read it because they have more structure, and they are able to practice better by themselves, especially.
Good. Yeah, good. So is there a fixed number of principles that you have in your book? In marketing, we often say like the 10 principles of,
Yeah,
is there a fixed number, or how did you came to this set? Is it something that is in development? Are you planning to, revisit and say, hey, there are actually more? How did you come to those principles? What were your choices?
yeah. I haven't counted them, so maybe I will address the structure of the book, that everybody who's listening has a better understanding how the book is structured.
Hmm.
Um, so the first principle is about the hold and the position of the couple. So that's the foundation of everything in ballroom and center dancing. Because if you have a bad hold and a bad position in relation to each other, then all the other movements don't work. So that's the first chapter. And the second chapter addresses the spatial movement. So all the principles of the swinging movement, swinging actions. So the downswing, the driving action, the upswing, and all the other movements, actions, principles that you can find throughout the swing dances, the jumping actions and quick step and so on. So that's the second chapter. And what I mean by principles, for example, when you take the swing action, you always have downswing, you always have a drive, you always have a rising action, and then you can apply the principles and slightly change them if you compare the waltz with the foxtrot, for example. But the principles are quite similar, and then you have to adapt them to the specific dance that you're practicing or that you're dancing.
Yes, Oliver, you spoke about a bad posture, and
Yeah.
could you give some context to that one, that we could understand what you mean with bad and with the posture?
Yes. So there are different planes that we can look at. So the most important thing is that before both partners take their common hold, they have to stand upright and be in a correct position and a correct balance by themselves. That's the necessary foundation to create a good common couple hold. So that's
Okay,
the first thing.
so yes, so
Yeah.
correct is also it. What would the listener understand as a correct then? And yeah,
A
what?
correct individual posture.
Yes, you use the word correct and good, but I don't
Okay.
understand the correct and good. So I wanted context from you. Yes,
Okay.
it's
A good individual position is where everything is aligned straight upwards, that you don't lean back or forward or to the side. So
okay.
everything is
So
aligned.
in angles then, when I put my hand like this, it's like
Yeah.
this. What you mean? So when the listener saw 90-degree angles, or what you mean, or in harmony the lines, or
No,
that both
I was
have the
just
same balance,
yeah.
left and right, or
Yeah, I was just referring to the individual position. So
yes,
before the
yes.
couple takes their hold, so everything
Hmm.
should be aligned and straight. There should be there's a little bit of tonus in the center, and everything should be
Ah,
straight
okay.
and aligned.
Yes.
I wasn't
So
referring to the couple hold. Yeah,
yes, it's form related then.
yeah, yes,
Fixed form related then. Actually, how the alignments had to be then.
yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's the first thing, and then the next sections are on the couple position, and then I start from the feet, because if the feet are not placed correctly, then everything it doesn't work to build up a good correct posture if the feet are not positioned correctly. And then I move upwards. I talk about the contact point and the head position, and how the arms should be aligned and positioned, and which joints can move in which way. And so the whole hold is described, what should be done to produce a good and harmonious hold.
Yes. Oh, nice to hear. It goes deeper then also. It's for experienced dancer, or also for dancers who begin with the ballroom dancing, so they could do also something with it.
Yes, I believe it's for both. Maybe it's a little bit more beneficial for the ones that are rather experienced, of course. But I already had couples that have just started to dance, and that have read the chapters that they are practicing. So, for example, a beginner couple starts with the hold, for example, and with the movement. and I already got feedback that it's quite beneficial for them to have read it, because they can they have the structure in their head, and then they can practice it more proficient. Yes,
Yeah.
so that's the first chapter. The second chapter is about the swing action, the movement actions, and so on. And then it dives into rotations, turns, sways, extensions, shapes. Shape is the sixth chapter that comprises all the movements that were described before. So the seventh chapter is about lead and follow, how to lead, how to follow, how to change the couple positions, and so on. And then the final chapter, the eighth one, is about the tango, where are the differences between the tango and the swing dances. So it's not written everything again for the tango, but the differences between the tango and the swing dances. So I go through again through the hold and the movement and the rotations, couple positions, etc., and address the differences between the tango and the swing dances.
Okay. Yeah, so if I hear it, I mean, I'm a dance educator. Obviously, I would also, think that I can use it very well in my teaching practice, right?
Yes.
And help.
Yeah.
So, are you doing activities besides your own teaching? Are you going out doing workshop for teachers and students to, get to work with your book? Is that something you do, or is that something that you have in your future? Um,
Yeah. Um, I recommend each dancer that practices with me to read it. I don't force them, but most of the dancers are interested to read it. I encourage that, of course. Um, I did some trainer educations, but that was 2 years ago. So the book was not published. So far I haven't had the chance to incorporate it into a trainer education. But I recently got the message that it's incorporated in Austria in some dance trainer academy for the
nice.
first time. So that was, I was quite happy about that.
Yeah.
Yes, and
Congratulations.
maybe
That's good.
yeah, that's super. Maybe worldwide, when some listeners are there from some federation or organization, so you can invite Oliver, and because when you are looking to people who did a long research and work very long on something, uh, you have some people experts what you could invite, and so listeners in Germany or all over the world, in the Netherlands or in America, yes, Oliver is available to put his principles there, and it's always interesting to look from a different view to the ballroom dancing,
Yeah.
and yeah, that's really great. I had another question. You also, Sean, you had still also some
Well,
questions.
my question is, unfortunately, Tom, we hitting
Yeah,
almost
our
the
time.
hour.
Yes, yeah.
We hitting almost the hour, but yeah, I definitely would like to add something to what Tom said, Oliver. It's your approach is about learning always, right? And at least
Yeah.
if you don't agree, then at least you have learned that, which is also good. So before you think, I'm agree or not agreeing, just read it with an open mind. But that would be, I think also, of course, a great workshop or teaching approach. You probably apply that as well. So we want to say to our listeners, because that's why we also ask you here, is yeah, I think it's a great addition to what's already out there. There are not many books actually written about standard dancing specifically, so that by itself should be a good stimulant to pick it up if that is the dance style you prefer. Me as a dancer would just pick it up because I love to read all about dancing. Um, Anything else, Don, before we come to a close?
Yes. Say somebody want to learn the style from the book and the principle of the book. Um, how long they take for the theory to understand it, maybe about plus minus, and to work with it, to adapt it to the body, to that motor, to that instrument, to that orchestra. How how long take it to coordinate that information in your book? Is there a time frame on it? Yeah, forever.
Uh,
It's
so some decades.
mm,
Yeah, yeah. I think the book comprises the experience of 2 decades dancing by myself and approximately 15 years of teaching.
mm,
So I believe it's not possible to say to let's say incorporate this knowledge within 1 year and then dance like a world champion. You might learn the principles, the content in some months or maybe a year if you're very eager to do so. But to incorporate that into your body, I think it takes years and years of practice.
Yeah.
yes. So they can learn the principles inside 1 year, and then of course it's working forever. It's endless to work with it. And I had still also other question because in
I'm
our
sure you have a
world,
lot of more
yeah, no,
questions, Ton.
one. It's the last one. I
Okay.
know you have to go, Sean. In our world, it's a lot of sometimes jealousy also because you wrote that book, you put a lot of effort, research in it, and how your colleagues react on it. Because I see it in my book sometimes. Some colleagues never react, and when I meet them and I will speak about with them, they get enthusiastic, and then I get suddenly reactions. I don't know how it is with your book in that ballroom world, because some of them they're stuck to the old things. How there are people who are jealous, or you never hear something from your colleagues, or some colleagues say wonderful or super. What are the reactions from it?
Yeah. So far, luckily, the reactions were very positive and nice. And interestingly, there were a few international experts, one quite conservative and one might be quite modern. But however, since the basic principles are described in the books, I received feedbacks from both ends of the spectrum in a very positive
Mm.
way. So that's quite interesting that not only maybe the modern ones or the conservative ones are in favor of it, but that both appreciate it. And that's, I appreciated that a lot.
Yes,
Yes.
that's wonderful news. Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
So, last question. You already know that, of course, Oliver, because we said it in the pre-talk. Is where do you see yourself in 5, maybe 10 years from now? Um,
Yeah, I would like to continue giving practice or improving couples and improving myself, of course. And I want to extend what I'm doing right now and improve myself. So that's the main point that in 5 years I definitely want to be better than now. And that's my main motivation. Each time I live, I want to learn something new, and that's my main motivation. So I don't know where I am in 5 years, but all I can do is to improve myself, and then let's wait and see where life goes.
Mhm.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah, nice
Well,
to hear.
yeah, an hour is almost nothing. I would love to have,
Yeah,
say, let's come back one more time when we, or maybe even more, when we have an opportunity, Oliver. It was a pleasure for my
yes,
side
I really appreciate it.
to hear about your book. Yes, this was another episode of Dance Gems. Good to have you here. We always have a little bit of an after talk, but in this case, I think we rescheduled that. Ton, is there anything you want to say in closing to Oliver before I, you know, do our
Oh,
usual thing?
Yeah, actually, I know he is also dentist, so he have a very clever job also beside to the dancing. Yes, one thing I want not to say, but also to ask how you work in this both areas because Sean has to go. So hopefully you can say it briefly. But yes, how is it to work in this both so different areas?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's great because both areas are completely independent from each other. So if there's training in the evening and dentistry in the morning, they are completely independent from each other, and I like that a lot. However, both fields deal with people, so the skills of one area might be applied to the other area because everywhere are people. So both fields are quite people oriented, but the technical skills that are completely different. And I like that a lot, to be in one role in this part of the day and in a completely other role in another part of the day.
Yeah, but there are crossovers also,
Yes,
similarities in
crossovers
it.
in, yeah, in the sense of that both fields deal with people, and you have to know how to communicate and yeah, try to communicate well with the people, that they feel good in the dentistry field, or that they improve in a good way in the dancing world. Yeah, but both fields deal with people, so that's quite nice.
Yes. Thank you very much, Oliver, for your time, for your
Thank you very much.
energy, and also for your book. I'm really happy you did what the most don't do, and is to write it down and have it there for the future. And you will work on it. You will probably revise it. There will come a second edition. And yeah, congratulations with your
Yeah,
achievement.
thank you. Thank you very
Yeah,
much. Thank
definitely. This
you for the invitation.
Yes, would love to have you, Oliver. And thank you so much, listeners, as always, and viewers, to be with us in this podcast. I hope you catch us in another episode. This was an interview with Oliver Rehder. Actually, we can also say Dr. Oliver Rehder, although in the context of dancing, probably doesn't like that, but it is actually true. Oliver is also a doctor. He wrote a fantastic book, The Principles of Standard Dancing. It's available on Amazon, so it's very easy to get both in German and in English. So that was that. With that, I say goodbye, Oliver, and
And sorry, don't forget, it's also available at on Casa Musica.
it's
Casa
also available.
Musica.
Casa Musica is well known for dance music and dance books and other dance articles, by the way. So
Yes.
yes, I will also mention that in the show notes for sure, and make a link to your book so that's easy for people to acquire one. All right. Thank you so much, Ton. With that, we are going to close it off with our music. Um,
Yes.
and I'll say from my side, bye bye. And I hope to see you back very, very, very soon. Of course, as always, we are available and you can watch us on Spotify and listen to us on Spotify or on our website or on YouTube at Dance Gems. As always, with that, we say bye bye. Ton, I say bye bye to you
Bye
too.
bye. See you next time. Listen to our next podcast and thank you for listening.